Todd Halleck here with you today, wanting to talk a little bit about long-term care planning and how that might be different from estate planning. So first off, what are we talking about when we talk about long-term care? Well, we're certainly talking about nursing homes, but we're also talking about home health nurses, assisted living, all of the ways that we as individuals might need care that's going to extend for a period of time that's not going to be covered by our traditional insurance or by Medicare. And how do we pay for these long-term care expenses? Well, the average nursing home cost in many places right now where I practice is between $6,000 and $10,000 a month. So the cost of that nursing home care can get quite steep quite quickly. The reality is, though, most of us won't need that kind of extended stay in a nursing home with that type of care. But as I always say to my clients, if you're that guy that's the 6-foot man who's drowned in a river whose average depth was 3 feet, it doesn't really matter what the statistics are. There's lots of different ways we can plan for this, but the key is that we need to have a plan to cover long-term care. This is especially true if you're a business owner, an owner of a farm or ranch or any kind of business. If you need long-term care, how will that business continue to operate and at the same time pay for your long-term care needs? Well, there's really 4 basic ways that we cover payment of our long-term care needs if those needs arise. The first is insurance. Insurance is generally going to be one of 2 kinds of insurance: a traditional long-term care policy, which is kind of like a health insurance policy in the sense that it's either use it or lose it. So if you need the long-term care and it's covered under your policy, then you make a claim against that policy and they will pay a certain portion or all of the long-term care needs. If you don't need any long-term care in your lifetime, then the money you expended on those policies will be a sunk cost. It won't be something that you will receive back. That's traditional long-term care policies. Those can sometimes be difficult to get and they can be somewhat expensive, and they've turned pricing on them has turned out to be a bit volatile. The kind of policy that I like the idea of is a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider. With this kind of a policy, you buy some type of permanent life insurance product, but if you end up in a long-term care facility, you can access the death benefit prior to your death and be able to access those monies to cover some of your long-term care costs. In the event that you don't end up needing long-term care and don't need to access those monies, then the beneficiaries of that policy will get the death benefit upon your death. That's why I tend to look at that as more of a win-win. You get it either way, whereas long-term care, traditional long-term care, I kind of think of as lose-lose, right? You either don't access the policy or you end up in a long-term care facility. So no real great outcome under either scenario there. So insurance is one way we pay for long-term care. If you are going to insure, I recommend that you do the life insurance with the long-term care rider. I recommend estimating what about 5 years of coverage would be, and we'll talk about that, the reason for that in a second. The next source for paying, if you don't have insurance or there's not enough insurance, we're going to look at your income. Will your income cover retirement income, Social Security income, the amount you bring in on a monthly basis? Will it cover your stay in a nursing home or assisted living or the home health care services that you're requiring? So the second avenue of payment is income. If your insurance and your income are insufficient, the next thing we're doing is selling assets. And that's the thing that people tend to be afraid of, is that they will come and they say, Medicaid is going to take my assets. Well, Medicaid doesn't really take your assets. What Medicaid says, Medicaid's a welfare program, and you have to meet certain criteria to be able to take advantage of or participate in that program. And they say you've got to meet this threshold, and if you don't, then you don't qualify and you have to spend down your assets. So very rarely is Medicaid actually coming in and taking your assets. And so if you have too much, then you need to start selling assets, and that really can get scary for a business. And that's why thinking about that insurance can be really important. But you may need to sell assets to be able to pay for that care. Once you have exhausted all three of these, then we're looking at Medicaid as the resource for covering that long-term care cost. Medicaid in the state I'm in, you can have a house, a car, and $2,000 to your name to be able to qualify for Medicaid. So you really do have to be impoverished. Some people will try giving assets away either into a Medicaid trust or to their children or somebody in order to qualify for Medicaid and not have to sell off their assets. The problem with this approach is in my opinion twofold. One, you're impoverishing yourself on the off chance that you might need Medicaid planning in the Medicaid services in the future. That seems like a pretty steep price to pay when other options are available. The other part of that is that those assets need to have been gifted or given out of your estate at least 5 years before you apply for Medicaid. Otherwise, you're subject to Medicaid's penalties. And so, there's a healthy lead time there that we just don't know the answer of when or if you're going to need those services, and if in fact you've engaged in some gifting, and if you don't make it the 5 years, you could really find yourself in a serious bind of A, not having the assets, and B, having the value count against you for a penalty period assessed by Medicaid. And so I'm really leery about the gifting option of getting rid of assets. I've had it likened to cutting off your leg because your dad had diabetes. We just don't know what the answer is, and so there's better ways to plan for that Medicaid issue, especially for nursing home issue, especially for a business owner, because often giving away assets to individuals or to trusts can really create some problems in the operation of the business. So there's a lot of ways that we can plan for nursing home care. Medicaid is just one of those things that you should look at. I really believe that should be your last resort. That's what it's meant for, is for people who are truly impoverished. And there's other and better ways for those of us who have means to be able to plan for our long-term care needs. So long-term care planning is a really important part of estate planning. It's a really important part of business planning. It's a really important part of succession planning. You can't overlook the importance of it, and you need to spend some time thinking about what your plan is. So that's it for today. This is Todd Halleck signing off. We're prepared to help you prepare. If you like these videos, please subscribe to our channel and press the like button below. Thank you.